Hey, what's up guys? Lowman back here with another video. And so today I'm going to be doing part 2 of my predictions, but this is just because I had the teams in the wrong spot, and yeah, so, and like the seasons didn't end. So Washington versus Toronto in the first round. I think Washington's gonna beat Toronto by a lot. Toronto has barely any playoff experience. Only like a couple of their guys have have playoff experience in the NHL. So I think Washington's gonna win this in 5 games. Pittsburgh versus Columbus. Pittsburgh is a really good team, and Columbus only had that one streak in the middle of their season. They've played really well through most of the season, but I think Pittsburgh takes that in 6 games. And then Montreal versus New York Rangers. I think the New York Rangers are going to take that in 7 games. It's going to be a goalie battle through the whole series. And yeah, so New York Rangers on to the next round. Boston versus Ottawa. I think Ottawa's going to win this series in 7 games because they're 2 really good teams, but Boston has lost a lot of their good players in the last couple of years, and so I don't think they can win against Ottawa. Anaheim versus Calgary. So I think that Anaheim is gonna win this series because they've been to the playoffs a couple times. They know what they can do, what they can get away with in the playoffs, and Calgary's only been there a couple times in the last few years. So I think Anaheim takes that in 6 games. Edmonton versus San Jose. So San Jose is a really good team. They've been to the playoffs a bunch of times, but I think Edmonton has such a good team this year that Edmonton will beat San Jose in 7 games. St. Louis versus Minnesota. So this is going to be a really close series. I think Minnesota can win this series, and I think they will win it in 6 games. Okay, now to Chicago versus Nashville. I think Chicago will sweep Nashville. Nashville was a really good team last year. I don't think they're as good of a team this year, so I think Chicago's gonna sweep them. Okay, now back to the Eastern Conference. So it's gonna be Washington versus Pittsburgh. In my opinion, the 2 best teams in the East. I think that Washington, even knowing their playoff struggles, I think they're going to take this series, but it's going to go to 7 games, and it's going to be such a good series, and I just think Washington will win. Okay, so now to the Rangers versus Ottawa. I think wait, I didn't say any games for that. I think that's going to be 7 games for Capitals. And the Rangers versus Senators. I think the Senators are a pretty good team, but Rangers are just better. I think Rangers will win this series in 5 games. Okay, now back to the Western Conference. Okay, so Anaheim versus Edmonton. I think Anaheim is a pretty good team. Edmonton is a really good team, but they're really young and they're not experienced. But I think Edmonton will no, Edmonton's good with the experience. They actually traded and signed a lot of guys that have experience, that can be physical and still score goals. So I think Edmonton takes this series in 6 games. Okay, Minnesota versus Chicago. I think that this is going to be a good series, but Chicago will take it in 6. Minnesota is a pretty good team, but not good enough to knock off the Hawks. Okay, so now to Washington versus Rangers. This is going to be a back and forth series, great series, probably the best series of these playoffs other than the finals. And I think the Washington Capitals will take this series in 7 games. They're both super good teams, amazing goaltending, stacked defense, and really good offense. But I think the Capitals just have that little edge over New York Rangers from like acquiring Shattenkirk and having just a stacked offensive core. Okay, so now to Edmonton versus Chicago. Chicago is an amazing offensive team. So is Edmonton. They both are amazing offensive teams. And Cam Talbot has been playing so good this year. Crawford has not been playing like really good of a late, of what I know, but like I think Chicago can still maybe win this series. I think it goes to 7 and Chicago wins the series. Okay, so now Chicago versus Washington. This is going to be the best series in the playoffs, not just because it's the finals, but because it's the best team in the West versus the best team in the East. And they're both amazing offensively. They both have really good defense. I think Washington has better defense than Chicago. And I think Washington has a better goalie. So I think Washington takes this series and wins the Stanley Cup in 7 games. Okay. So I was just doing my predictions. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. See you in the next video. Peace.